ignore them. They're there for a reason. And, he was making sure I was okay, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And he would kind of send me little reminders like, you're not on your own. I'm not letting you drown, that kind of thing. And another is a while back before we shared the video, I really prayed, and I said, Lord, you own the cattle on 1,000 hills, and I said, I trust you. Before a penny is donated, I know that you can help us and you can multiply. And he told me it would be through the help of people that he would work, and that's how he's done it a lot in history. And the video was shared, it went viral, and at that time, Sarah's health was really bad, so bad that a lot of doctors said she was acute, which means kind of on the line, she can lose her life. And we were able to bring her to this place in the west coast of Florida that I really believe helped her a lot. We were there for about a month and a half. And even though she still has different ailments and deals with a lot of different things, I feel like at the time, our main thing was keeping her alive. And afterwards, I feel like I don't feel like she's been on the line, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So he's helping those different ways. He sent people to encourage, to pray, to support financially, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was humbling. A lot. I think I don't know if it's just limited to America, but a lot of people are kind of leery about asking for help. And I've learned through this journey, it's okay to ask for help.
Mm.
And it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to share your story, because the right people will care. The right people will listen to your story. And the right people will help. And you don't know until you ask.
That's true. So, Michael, can you explain the video that you just talked about so that the listeners can understand what you're saying and how they can look at the video as well?
Sure. It's on YouTube, and it's called Recovering Sarah. And Sarah's name is spelled with an H, Sarah. And in the video, my aunt helped put it together as far as piecing the various clips and the music, but it was one of the most difficult things to do because I had to record Sarah having seizures or various ailments that she was going through, and it was the last thing on my mind as her husband to do that. At first we were recording her health condition for documentation purposes, but we realized we can use it to make a video. At first we didn't want to do it, but a lot of people encouraged us to do it and said, look, I know that it would be hard, but if people saw it, they would really want to help. And so after a while, I was able to record some, and it wasn't at the time some of the worst I saw. But I was able to record it, and then my aunt pieced clips together. In the beginning, you'll see us dancing at our wedding, and that's when she was able to stand. And then it goes into kind of her background story that leads up to where she is. That wasn't just all of a sudden as far as her health condition. It's just that it was all of a sudden that she got seizures and stuff and ended up in a wheelchair. So it kind of shows some of her condition, and it has a song that really we feel like is a powerful song that really touched our souls by a band called 10th Avenue North. And, that's what, and at the end it shows us dancing again, kind of the hope of, can we get there again? And, I'll be honest, it's seeing her go through that and feeling like I could almost lose her at the time, really. I don't know. It was just really hard to see. And I remember praying so hard to God one time at that time and saying, Lord, I know, you're ultimately sovereign and your will be your will, but if it's okay, please don't let her, don't let this be it. I really need her. And almost a week later, this is before we went to that facility in the west coast of Florida, she felt like she was going to die. And, that feeling like, and, but then it's like she heard God's voice and he said, are you sure? Michael still needs you.
Mm.
So that was a really, really, really hard time at that time. And I was only getting around 3 hours of sleep because throughout the whole night, she would be awake, crying in pain and stuff. And I'd be taking care of her various needs. And it was humbling for her too. I had to help bathe her. I had to, everything you could think of that, what you do as a caregiver. And so it was humbling in that way, but it was different because I wasn't fully thinking about everything. I was just thinking that we need to get her better. We need to, first it was that we need to save her life.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was, we need to get her better. That was the main things on my mind. I wasn't thinking about anything else. And if I could give advice to any caregivers, especially the ones who take care of their loved ones or spouse, it's keep doing that. Loving on them with your all, but make sure you take care of yourself too. It's not selfish to make sure you're healthy so you can be healthy enough to take care of your spouse or your loved one. That's something I wasn't doing at the time, and I was barely eating because I was so focused on helping with everything with her and trying to get the message out to people about the video and everything, that I wasn't thinking to, feed myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like on tea, and it helped curb my appetite. And, and another thing is, that's been one of the most difficult things. Sorry if I'm all over the place.
No, you're fine, Michael.
At the time I didn't talk about it because I didn't want to burden people, but a month after Sarah had her first seizure, I had a seizure and went to the hospital. And we didn't know it. We thought it was a fluke at the time, and almost 2 years later, I got tested and found out that I had Lyme 2 with the co-infections, and that was one of the second hardest things to hear, because I was thinking, here I am trying to do what I can with her and taking care of her, and then finding out about that. And Sarah had a feeling for a while. I was kind of in denial.
Mm-hmm.
But she noticed that my health kept going downhill since we got married. And there's studies that I didn't realize before. People can get Lyme not just through ticks that carry Lyme, but it can be through what you do in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So that was difficult. But even though it's been hard, and I'm like, why did you allow this? That kind of thing. There's the other side where I'm like, I can empathize with her even more so. I can understand
I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. what she feels and things like that. So, thankfully, on the one end, it's if you don't get it right away within the moment you start having symptoms, then it would be considered late after 2 months. So if we don't do things to help our health conditions, we can go backwards. But, I take different things and I try to lay low. Last year, 2015, I had various seizures, taking issues with walking normal in the evening and couldn't do certain physical things I used to do. Sarah's parents have been a huge help. If I don't, that's another thing is if we didn't live with them and we were in another state, I think it would have been way more difficult. But they help with different things like making meals. I used to do that myself, but in the evenings I'm not good anymore. And we all kind of pray and, that kind of thing. So they do a lot of different things that I used to not be able to do. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place.
No, you're fine. Can you explain a little bit? I know you talked about Lyme disease, but can you explain for those who don't know what that means?
Sure.
Thanks.
One of the funny misconceptions is people call it limes, Limes, like it's lemon or lime. Now, what's helpful is there's something called the Lime Challenge where they take a bite out of a lime to kind of talk about it. That's every May, the month of May, they have the Lime Challenge. It's kind of like the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. So Lyme is a super bacteria that has various forms. 3 of the main ones that have been talked about for a long time. And it wreaks havoc through your body. It mimics other conditions such as MS and things like that. It can go throughout your whole entire body, your brain, your heart, various parts. It makes your immune system very weak. And usually what people don't know is Lyme usually comes with something called co-infections, which is multiple different infections, other bacterial infections such as Babesia bartonella, and there's viruses, because your system's so weak, and ticks carry that. So for Sarah, she was infected when she was young by it, but it didn't flare up really bad until recently. And she has a genetic mutation that makes her more susceptible to biotoxins and infections. And so basically, in essence, it's a superbug, a super bacteria that wreaks havoc throughout your body. Some of the symptoms are something called, what they call, the Lyme community calls brain fog, which is just, it's harder to think. It's harder to remember things, harder to focus, and chronic fatigue, pain throughout your whole body and joints, very tired, heart pain, chest pain, pain through your brain. And then no two Lyme people are exactly alike. There's a documentary called Under Our Skin, and it goes through the history of Lyme, and doctors and scientists talk about it. Patients talk about it. There's some people who can walk normal and you wouldn't even know, and so sometimes it's that invisible illness, if you will. They look okay on the outside, but on the inside they aren't. Then there's those who end up in wheelchairs and have seizures and stuff like that. So I remember when we went to the west coast of Florida, there was people like Sarah in a wheelchair and seizures, and then there's people walking normal like me. And I would, if I saw them just walking every day, I wouldn't know. But they would talk about the pain and the hard, that was hard to focus. Some of them lost their jobs because they couldn't function normally at their job, that kind of thing. And if not taken care of, you can get worse. And there's a lot of people who have lost their lives from it. So I I don't know if that was helpful or not.
Yes, it was. When you mentioned